Welcome back, everyone, to Ikoto on the Wall, where we're finally going to be telling a top-notch 4.5 stars with over 600 views quality ghost story. I'm Matthias720. And with me today, we have KD.
Wasn't Mr. Pooper supposed to die?
Yes. And Pete.
Hey, I finally got a copy of this book. More on that in just a second. If you're wondering about why we slowed down, there's a couple of reasons for that. And I just want to point out, it is currently October 31st at just after 2:30 Central Time. So we are recording this first episode in October. Ha-ha!
Yep.
Technically the truth, which is the best kind of truth.
Mm-hmm. If you're partially the reason why we are late on this is my fault. Not for any personal reason necessarily, but more I didn't do my due diligence. I've mentioned several times on show that with the exception of one book, I have rebought this entire series on ebook form because I have a Kindle and it saves space on my shelf, which is already, overloaded. However, when I went to go buy book 3 in the Castaways series, I discovered to my immense chagrin that there is no ebook for this particular entry.
Does not exist. Whoops.
Put in Mrs. Starr's classroom. And for the 2 or 3 of you that got that joke, thank you. If you're not, look up what was it? Wayside Elementary series.
Oh, yes. I understand.
I loved those books as a kid.
Yeah.
Those were great.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not. But okay, moving on. But before we get into the meat of this story, I do need to make a disclaimer, folks. Here, kind of like with Doom White, where it covers a little bit of heavier material. That is very much the case here. We will have our own commentaries on the morality of slavery. Short version, we're all against it, clearly. But this book does touch on at least the European version of slavery from the last several centuries.
Right. Yeah, it's a little touchier because it's not in some fantasy world. It's in our world.
Right.
With human beings. So it's like, oh.
It's not
Go ahead.
Not Slagar taking Madame Mayo and his friends off for, trip down to old Loamhedge Abbey. No, this is real.
Which is what I was going to say. With Redwall, I mean, 1, we're reading a fantasy series, and 2, you can kind of address some of the elements of slavery without digging into the very, very ugly, very nitty-gritty history of humanity. We don't have that luxury here. Moreover, for later in the book, this book doesn't show us like the most ugly of realities. It does not hide away from what sometimes slavers would do to break free people into slaves. So, parents, ye be warned if you're listening to this with your Dibbins. Okay.
Yep. Heavy stuff.
That being said, this is obviously the third of the 3 Castaways book. This came out in September of 2006. And again, my brain jigs, that's why we're covering it. And, technically still October, haha. But this book is a little bit odd. If you were expecting a historical progression from the last book we covered, that isn't it. This is a little bit odd. I'm going to read directly from the Redwall Wikia here. Voyage of Slaves, the third tale in the Castaways of the Flying Dutchman series, consists of 3 books chronicling the adventures of Ben and Ned as they tried rescuing a troop we'll meet, I'm not going to spoil their name yet, from a particular Libyan slaver around the year 1703. Chronologically, these events happened before Book 3 of Castaways of the Flying Dutchman, the original book.
Yep.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that because I went and looked it up because I had to refresh myself. The original book has an immense time jump.
Mm-hmm.
After the original tale of the ship getting cursed and all that, and then later them with having the best time with the shepherd, the time skip is literally 273 years. So it basically 1896. So this is basically going into material we never that hasn't been accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
Totally fine.
If I remember correctly, when we got to book 2, I touched on this and how not only did the dates like line up kind of weird, but the whole being out of order thing. So go back and listen to Angel's Command. Actually, better yet, folks, go back and listen to both Castaways 1 and 2 just to make sure you're up to speed.
If anything, Castaways 2 happens before this book.
Right
that
before,
happens in
it
the
seems
1600s.
like. Doesn't
1600s.
It? Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is basically 70 years after Castaways 2. So, all right then.
Okay, so Ben is how old at this point? Like, if we're looking...
Let me double check.
I think, would it
The
be
original starts, well, here, let's just do mathematics.
Math! Math isn't real.
Math isn't real. My life is a lie.
The original is 1623.
Okay, so he's
starts in
about...
1623, yeah.
So he's like 70, 80, something?
Yeah.
That's pretty old.
Yep, especially for a dog.
Indeed. I'm just thinking about the romance later and how that's a little creepy now.
A little Edward Cullen-ish, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
A little bit, yes.
All right. So this book opens with a prologue that basically is a last time on Dragon Ball Z, but it covers the first two sections of the book, of the original book, which is, hey, they were on that cool ship called the Flying Dutchman, and they were the goodest of good boys, and then the angel cursed Captain Vanderdecken and his crew, except, no, you two guys are cool. We're going to give you eternal life, and you get to go solve crimes.
You get to be Scooby-Doo before Scooby-Doo was ever a thing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's basically it, yeah. Unfortunately, and then Vanderdecken, apparently, because he just can't let it go, is still out hunting our two heroes here. So.
Yep.
But unfortunately, the book begins kind of badly because our two heroes are trapped in basically a little rowboat in the middle of the Mediterranean, which is not a small body of water.
Nope.
And yeah, they're basically dying of thirst. And hey, there's a ship rescuing us, and they don't like dogs. How can you not like dogs?
I mean, it is understandable. Like some cultures, at least today, some countries have like a packs of wild dogs in the street, and people get attacked. And
do want to touch on this because while our main big bad is a self-admitted atheist, we'll get to him. There is a tradition in both rabbinic Judaism and presumably Islam here, because they use Islamic terms in this early in the book, that dogs are seen as ritually unclean, and you don't, while they can be served as essentially herders or guards, they're not meant for family companion pets, which no, I don't agree with.
Right, I don't either.
Generally speaking, in the modern terms, this is mostly just strict Orthodox Islamic. But this, at least in that sphere of influence, and this is my theology major showing through, this has only been around like the last couple hundred years. So while this is accurate, I don't know, it's kind of happening a little too early for that. But whatever, that's me nitpicking. So, but there's also a lot of superstitions around black pets, not just black cats. So, and as we all know, our favorite Labrador is jet black. So, of course, so they rescue Ben by knocking him unconscious because, it wouldn't be a Redwall book without that.
Dame Bramage.
Yes.
And they toss our favorite Labrador out to sea. Oh dear. I'm sure he'll be fine, right?
Yeah, he's immortal. That's a thing that I'm wondering. Like, okay, so they're immortal, right? So if they're drowning, do they just drown forever?
Like, how immortal are they, technically?
Right.
Because immortality does not mean invulnerability.
Right. I mean, they can still get injured, we see. Like, you can still injure them, but will they just, like, if you injure them badly, will they just, like, lie in agony forever and not die? It's like, how does that work?
Or will they eventually Wolverine themselves into, okay, I'm better now, I can kind of move?
Yeah. That was actually chapter 1. It was a prologue to chapter 1. Chapter 2, yeah, I already hate these bad guys already. And I'm saving my slaver argument for later, my moral argument for later, but know that, yes, we're dealing with slavers. Straight up.
And I do want to point out the chapter art in this book is a little unconventional compared to some of the previous chapter art we've had, where it's usually just, square or square-ish picture in relation to the chapter number. Here, it's an illuminated chapter number. It's got this neat little design. But then the chapter art typically is like shaped around some of the text. So in this case, for chapter 2, you can see Ben. He's like bound by his ankle, looking out through some like gap into a lighted room, and the room he's in is kind of dark. You can see him from behind, and it's kind of depressing. It's the worst.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that, because the mass market paperback I had to get to read this has no chapter art. It's that same glyph I would see in the ebooks of books 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. Because I have the first edition. I got this when it first came out. So my hardcover has all the shiny bells and whistles.
Ooh,
so I guess
fancy.
I should start addressing all of the pictures then.
Please do, because I can't.
Okay. For chapter 1.
And I can't either, so you're the only
one. I guess I didn't see that one coming.
Oh.
Dang.
Okay. Okay, chapter 1's chapter art is this tiny little dinghy. It looks like basically a canoe, but with like a square stern with the tiller coming off of it. It does have a small, mast, and that's being held up by a pair of ropes attaching it to what I'm assuming is the spar that's supposed to hold the sail in place. But this thing does not look very big. It looks basically wide enough to sit in and maybe turn around in, and that's about it. And long enough to hold maybe 3 people and some supplies. Not that big.
Well, and while we're talking about art, let's talk cover art in this, because there's not much difference, but the only real difference we get in both versions, the US and the UK, this scene is what I presume is Ben holding an oar and taking a big old whack at a great white. The only real difference is that they're at literally different angles. Like the US one shows the shark going by the boat, missing, and Ben's about to whack it, and then the UK has the shark coming right at him, and he's about to whack it.
And the whole thing with the shark does not happen in this book yet, so...
Noted.
I was going to say, don't remember that.
All right. So, moving on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 basically finds him, he is in the hand of the slavers, and they're even debating whether they should even bother to feed him. I hate these guys already.
Yes.
But they do, and Mahmoud, who is thankfully a short-term villain, because I kind of hate him, basically taunts him about, hey, I tossed your dog into the sea. Like, dude.
Yeah.
And Ben is understandably upset. He basically straight up asks the angel, hey, my dog okay? Oh, he's fine. Just worry about the dark angel. Wait, what was that? Nothing.
Not a thing.
Oh, and lest we forget, Ben can speak literally every language. So when he starts speaking directly to Mahmoud saying, you're going to sell me. Who are you selling me to? And he's just like, where did you learn to speak our tongue? It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
I have a premium subscription to Babelfish.
Yes. Well, also, do you want to sign up for Squarespace?
This episode of Recorder on the Wall brought to you by...
Oh,
Absolutely nobody, because we don't have a
Nobody.
big enough audience to get
Right.
sponsorship.
that
deals.
and Penguin. I'm no doubt Penguin Publishing would take umbrage if I made a penny off this. So, but moving right along. So yes, they're like, hey, so Mahmoud is going to sell this to his friend in the biggest air quotes I can put up, Bomba. And let me know if I'm saying those names right.
Yes, and I hate this guy.
Oh yes.
I don't even want to say his name. That's how much I hate him for some gross stuff that I'll get into later. But nope, hate this guy. Don't want to say his name.
We could
Nope.
just call him Mr. B and be done with it.
Mr. B.
like-
Okay, I like that.
So noted for the record. So Mr. B's just like, I guess I'll buy him off of you, but yeah, fine. I'm going to give you this pittance of a thing. It's like, wait, what? And again, I will save my rant on slavery for later. And it's like, well, this gold comes from my boss, that Al Musarata, right?
Al Miserata.
Musarata, thank you.
Yep.
Musarata. And that's enough for Mahmoud's like, okay, pleasure doing business with you. I'll leave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
And we never see him again, which is a shame, because I'd like to think his ship sank.
Oh, and I do want to point out, because they do use a lot of words consistent with Islam. They constantly refer to him as the boy is a blue-eyed infidel.
Uh-huh.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep. So that ends chapter 2. Chapter 3 begins with our favorite. Well, I'll let Matthias take this.
You can see in the chapter art there is a guy with an absolutely manly mustache, big ripped arms, holding the very much half-drowned body of Ned.
Okay, question from the blind girl. What does a manly mustache signify?
Okay, there is a popular image meme of like super manly boxer from like late 1800s, early 1900s, and they have like this giant waxy mustache that starts out like thick and bushy near the center of the nose and then curls out, and it goes out like past the cheekbones to curl at a fine point at the end on each side.
Term is also called handlebar mustache.
Okay, I've heard that term before. I had no idea what it meant. The more you know.
Frankly, maybe it's because I just prefer to be clean shaven. I've never seen the appeal.
Same here.
My dad has a goatee, and every time he kisses me on the cheek, it tickles. I'm like, must you have that thing?
I guess.
But he likes it, so that's fine.
So noted. Yes, we begin the story with a German. You want to? Sorry, he's this quote German Otto Kassel, and he's called German this entire time. But as well, Matthias, you take this.
Okay. Germany as a country did not exist yet. They refer to him as German. It would have been like Austria-Hungary.
Prussian.
Or Prussian. It wouldn't have existed. This really irritates me.
Just say he's of Germanic descent.
Somebody didn't do his research. Wah, wah.
I'll get more to this later, but I feel as though there are elements in this book that are trying to be modern, while at the same time trying to be like old and of the time that this book was originally, set in. And it doesn't work. The two parts clash, but I'll get to that later.
He could have even put something in there like, he was from this country, which in our day would be called Germany or something like that, just to teach kids something.
Even saying Germanic would have been closer to the truth.
I will point out that there's a lot of words from either like German, Italian, I'm assuming what are supposed to be Arabic. I don't know. But there will be a little star next to it, and then at the bottom of the page, it'll give the word and then the translation into English. Yep. So For example, we see Fräulein used in this chapter, so it says next to it just lady.
Isn't that young lady too? Because Frau, I believe, is older, like Mrs., I guess, would be like the typical. I took a little bit of German in college. I might be forgetting most of it, but I think Fräulein is specifically for like a younger woman.
Mm.
I think so.
I know my mother took high school German. I picked up little pieces here and there, but honestly, I don't know.
I can't speak with any authority on it either. So
okay, if we have any German-speaking listeners who want to tell me that I'm totally wrong, I will, of course, bow to your superior knowledge.
Okay. So that being said, Otto finds on the shore of the Mediterranean, hey, there's a dog down there. Yeah, what, did you think the author was going to kill off our favorite Labrador? Come on.
If he would have, I would not be reading this right now.
Yes. Ned is obviously weak and barely can sit up, and Otto, Otto thankfully is very good people, and he obviously picks him up to take him with him and take care of him.
Yeah.
And they call him Bundi or Bundy.
Yeah, I mean, in his German accent in the audiobook, it sounds like Bundi, but I would say Bundy.
Okay, I think they're interchangeable in this case.
Yeah.
All right. So we get introduced to the main kind of set of characters that we're going to be following that aren't Ben and Ned and aren't villains. And that is the Traveling Rizzoli Troupe, which is, I imagine that a Brian Jakes product that has a traveling actor troupe.
I mean, how many books have had a traveling troupe of performers? I have to wonder if at some point during his formative years, growing up in Liverpool, if there wasn't like a traveling troupe that stopped in from somewhere, quote unquote, exotic that Brian really became attached to, and this just became something that he really wanted to include in all of his stories.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. But yes, we have a troop of 9. And I'm pretty sure that includes the animals.
Yes,
sort
the
of.
horse and the python. Yep.
Yes, Troop Snake. We have Otto Castle we've already met. We have Rizzoli, the owner, Rosa, his wife, who's is literally basically Teen Mom.
Yeah.
Because they literally call her Mama. So,
Mm-hmm.
We have a pair of clowns.
Yeah, Fred and George. Oh, no, wait, sorry, wrong book.
It might as well be.
I like them, though. I like them a lot. It's not like
officially their names are Peppino and Vincenzo, but they're called Buffalo and Momo.
Yes, I like these guys.
Which are very clown-like names.
Yeah.
I was going to say they're more Lost Marx brothers at this point. So, and then we have 2 women who have signed up with the troupe of African descent of Lindy and Serafina.
Yes. Okay. This is where my rant canon starts. So the book specifically says that when they signed up, they had totally unpronounceable names. And so they changed their names into things that they could pronounce. Okay, so I have a cousin who married a man who moved from Africa, and they have 4 children, and all of their children have African names. Nobody in our family was like, this name is too hard for me to pronounce. I'm gonna call you Josh. It's like, what? Like, if you want to give them a nickname that's based on their original name that's easier for you to pronounce, fine. But I did not like the thing that, African names are too hard to pronounce, so we will give you more Italian sounding. What?
Well, not only that, but I mean, you can't even make the argument that, like, say, take Star Trek. Vulcan name, we don't even know true Vulcan names because we're told humans can't pronounce them.
Right.
That's why we're just given Commander Spock. Fine. But no, I happen to agree with you wholeheartedly, Katie. Like, there's no excuse here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
mean, I'll agree as well. Just it's not only saying, it's not only the case that it's like removing the thing that makes them them. It's like, no, this isn't good enough to identify you as you. But it also is to say, your culture and ours are incompatible. Therefore, our culture is going to take precedence over yours.
Yeah.
I will say one thing, and I won't even say it's in defense, but just as like I get why it's happening. is because that is very likely to have happened back then. I would not be surprised. But it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a possibility that it could happen, but if that were the case, I would expect a little bit of commentary from Jake's, like, saying how he doesn't agree with this. But the way it was written, it just seemed like he was like, oh, this is totally natural. They don't have names that we can pronounce, so we're going to change them, which is why it just seemed very off to me. And I just imagine these poor children from Africa reading this like, oh, look, somebody who looks like me, who does not have a name that sounds like mine.
I mean, if you could, I mean, even another way out of this would have been to say that Rosa Rizzoli adopted these kids very young.
Yeah.
And just gave them names. Like before, memory would really, like, 2 or below. So,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, moving along though, because this is how much that. Yes, and then we're told that Lalindy has a snake who does sound like she has an African name, Mwaga. And I like Mwaga, but we'll get to why later.
Yeah.
And their horse that pulls the cart, Popea.
Yeah, and then Serafina is beautiful, and the way that she's described, again, is a little weird. It's like, look at this exotic, beautiful woman. Like, all right, Jakes.
To give a literal quote, the younger one, who was in her mid-teens, was a strikingly beautiful girl, tall, slim, and gracious, with large almond-shaped eyes which radiated tranquility. I'll admit that does sound quite attractive. It's just really unfortunate in the context.
Yeah. And like also like throughout the book when he's saying Serafina said this or Serafina did this, is like the beautiful black girl did this or the lovely black girl did. I'm like, stop it.
It's like he constantly seems to be justifying referring to her as anything other than her name just to talk about how beautiful she is.
Yeah, it's weird and I don't like it.
Okay. So, but yes, Otto brings Ned back, and they're like, "Oh, cool, you found a dog, but he won't live through the night." Oh, yeah, he will. Yeah, he's gotta live through the night. Come on.
Yeah, and I mean, just like as a disclaimer, I do like Serafina and Lalindy. I like them both.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want it to seem like I don't like them. I think I do like them, especially Serafina caring for Ned. Like, somebody who cares for a doggy is always going to be a good person in my book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the circumstances around them are very unfortunate and rouses your ire.
Yes, indeed.
All right. But they, we do see that Ned, before he falls back asleep, he'd been carried all the way. He's dreaming of Vanderdecken, who is still just like, "Hey, I want you back. So you're coming to me. Where's your master?" Just like, dude, get a hobby, Vanderdecken. Good lord.
Have we mentioned that Ned doesn't know who he is or who Ben is and doesn't remember anything? Okay. I couldn't remember if we mentioned
I have to load not a rant cannon, but like a mini rant popper here because I hate this trope. I really do.
I'm just glad it doesn't last terribly long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really don't like this trope. And don't get me wrong, this is things all over cartoons and especially younger kids' books. But for a different episode on our other podcast, I looked this up when Jeremy and I covered something like that. The only way this happens in humans is usually with some sort of psychotic break where people have this level of amnesia.
Yes.
But that being said, I'm willing to forgive it here because there's supernatural things at play. Fine.
Right.
I still don't like the trope. Moving on to chapter 4. Hey, we have back to Ben and apparently 3 other slaves that Bamba has picked up in his journey.
Oh boy.
Before we get too far, you got the chapter art, which is, I'm not sure who this is supposed to be, but gentleman with long flowing hair coming out from underneath a turban, and he's got a very long, I don't want to say the word luxurious mustache that seems to drape below his chin. It's a very long flowing, not quite Fu Manchu, like thicker. It's like his lip has ponytails.
Like, fair enough. But yes, Ben is paired with 3 other slaves, and I'm not going to go through the interval of repeating their names, not because they aren't named, but because we see these guys briefly and then they're forgotten about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. What we are introduced to, however, is Bamba gives them the chance. They stop before they meet up with his boss, and he basically tells the 3 boys, Ben included, and the one girl, hey, go clean yourself up before I present you to my boss. Fine. And that just introduces to me who, for most of this reading, was my most hated character, and that is saying something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because there is, like, no redeemable villains here. Like, not even a shred of this. But when I don't even hate the biggest boss until later, I hate one of his underlings. That's saying something. And that is Yasmina. And she gets a minor bit of, okay, well, you're not that bad later on. But at least for this opening bit where she's described and later when she's teaching Ben on how to do things, she's a straight up Dolores Umbridge.
I mean, sort of, although I will say she is a woman in the 1700s. So I think, I mean, she shows her power, but she's also like, she has a very definite boss who is very abusive to her.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's like the cycle of abuse thing where because she is abused, she abuses other people, which is very sad and it doesn't excuse what she does. I just think it helps explain it a bit.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
she's
I was
she's a
reading it.
woman in the Middle East in the 1700s. Use your imagination.
Yeah, it's but I mean I don't agree with her beating people, but yeah, it's just a little nuanced in the way that she's presented.
Okay, fair enough. I was reading it more. She's no doubt in an abusive scenario here, but she is also close to power, and then she'll express that cruelty basically on anybody else she can.
Mhm.
Right, yeah. No, she's not a nice person
No.
by any means.
And like I said, she gets one minor moment of you're not as much of a jerk as you could have been, but that does not excuse her actions.
Yes,
So,
at least she doesn't wear pink and have an office of tiny kittens on plates, though.
yes.
Because, ugh.
So yes, we're basically told the 4 slaves clean up and are get presented to our big bad. I already said his name earlier. Al Misurata, right?
Yep.
Al Misurata. And he's the big bad for a reason. Yes, ultimately he is my most hated character of this first portion, but not by much.
Yeah, it was Mr. B for me just because he's gross and I don't like him.
Fair enough.
And my Al Miserata is definitely my most hated person, just because I remember elements of some of the other characters we've seen in the first 2 books, and there's something very slimy to me about somebody who not only is in authority and wields it like a hammer, but then is basically to the tune of, I'm the best there is, you will do everything I say without question and smile because I deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like that.
I don't either. Yeah, and I do not like him.
So, one thing I will credit here, and we're gonna talk about the big bosses here, his motivations very shortly, is that Brian has gone out of his way not to use theology to justify slavery, no matter what the core faith or lack thereof of someone's actions.
Mm-hmm.
So props to that.
Yeah.
But it's still slavery, and we're getting to my moment later.
Yeah.
Rant cannon prepared.
Yeah.
I will point out once again, similar to the whole Germany thing, on the other side of the spectrum, they talk about Cathay, which is the old-timey way they were talking about China.
Mm.
Okay, why can you talk about Cathay, but you still call it Germany? I'm not bitter!
Clearly. That being said, Lisa Rata basically makes an assessment of the 4 and Ben, I like Ben. He stands up for himself a lot.
He does. Even when it's not, you wouldn't view it as wise, he still is like, nope, you're not gonna, slavery's bad. I'm gonna tell you slavery's bad.
Yep. Definitely is definitely bad. And Ben does give the game away, though. He kind of did so earlier, but he definitely reconfirms it. That's showing that he can speak a lot of languages.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no wonder Almi Surata sees this as useful because, let's face it, especially not only in the current day, but certainly back then, having a person who is multilingual like this is incredibly useful.
Yeah.
I recently listened to a series of podcasts on the Mongol Empire, and when somebody, like an ambassador, coming all the way from Europe, eventually reached Mongolia to have an audience with the Khan, the message that he brought had to be translated. It was like from whatever the local, it was like Latin to something else to something else to something else into the language the Mongols spoke. It had to go through like 3 to 5 different translations before it finally reached the ears of the guy that it was intended for. Mm-hmm. So being able to cut out the middleman and have somebody who can directly translate and avoid the foibles of translation, I mean, have you tried ever copying something into Google Translate, translating it to like 5 or 6 languages and then back to English and just to see what would happen? It gets mangled. It has no meaning.
There are a lot of YouTube videos about people translating songs that way, and they're hilarious.
So, yeah, being able to have somebody who can just, give you the correct translation in your mother tongue is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. So, that being said, Ami Surata basically sees that Benny's useful and says, hey, yeah, you should really come work for me because, it's not that bad. You just need to do some translations and, you get the pretty much life of luxury here. Mm-hmm. And Ben's like, except freedom. So, And that's when our big bad gets kind of mad and straight up says, the only god I worship is gold.
Yep.
And keep that in mind because it's going to come back later. But yeah, he obviously, Almi Surata doesn't care about any faith system or any exterior morality except what makes him more money. Okay. That's good to know because it's going to come back later. Oh, and he says, okay, well, since you insulted my generous officer, into the dungeon with you for 2 days.
I'm strongly reminded of the scene in Martin the Warrior where Badgering's like, wouldn't you like to join my horde? And Martin's like, nope, and bites him, and then he's dragged away.
Yeah, same energy, except instead of it being a cellar, it was chained between 2 pillars during a huge storm.
And then thrown in a pit.
Anyway, Chapter 5, the art is
describe
3 guys.
The mustaches.
3 guys on camels with what I believe are flintlock rifles on their backs.
Interesting. I don't think we have any mention of a flintlock in this.
Yes, we do. At the beginning of Chapter 4.
Oh.
They're Jezreel's. It's an Eastern flintlock rifle. It's in the subnotes.
Noted. I stand corrected. Oh, yes. And thankfully, Ned is recovered, and this is where the amnesia trope comes into full thing. Where he genuinely doesn't know, who his best friend is or what he's doing. He's just like, hey, I found cool people. Don't like the name, but hey. So, and even Ned, the dog, remarks that Seraphine is the most beautiful woman he's ever seen.
Oh boy. Here we go.
He's not to 100% yet, by the way, but he's getting there.
Yeah.
Chapter 5 continues where we're showing it's more of the troop, really, and they just have discussions of like, oh, we're really grateful to have a dog, but we're going to have to figure out something to do with him. We have our first song. Yeah, because it wouldn't be a Brian Jakes book without a song.
Yep.
Oh, and then Bumba and his men just suddenly show up and, hi! Well, you're on my boss's territory, so, that's not good.
You have to pay the toll with yourselves. Come with me.
Yes, they basically get, hey, you want to come play for our boss? Well, the other choice is getting killed. Sure. Yeah, we'll go entertain your boss. And I do love the final line of a chapter. Otto's, Ned's thinking internal dialogue. Yeah, we're chickens surrounded by hawks.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Chapter 6, chapter art, is Ben, obviously looking like he's been blinded by light. He's on his knees, one hand propping him up, the other using his arm to cover his eyes from something that is very, very, very bright.
And this is where Jafar comes in to recruit him to go to the Cave of Wonders, right? Because that's where my mind went.
Pretty much. A diamond in the rough.
Yep. So, but no, of course, they left him down there with no food or water. So, Ben's not having a good run here.
No.
Like, this has happened to him twice. Oh, and he keeps praying to the angel, but apparently, there's no cell signal down there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I do like how, like, without Ned, like, without knowing what has happened to Ned, like, he has no one to turn to, and that really breaks him. I think he's more broken by that than by, like, I mean, obviously he does not like being in a cellar with no food or water or whatever, but, like, he doesn't have his usual companion to, like, get solace from, and so he's just really broken. And I kind of like seeing that because it makes him less perfect, I guess.
More human.
Yeah, there you go.
There's also the element of this is a pitch black cellar, and he's left down with not only no food or water, but no light, and he constantly is hearing odd noises and rustlings and scratchings. It's like, what could be down there? Insects, scorpions, rats, maybe even a snake? He couldn't tell. So whenever he hears something, he's grabbing a puffle. See, I'm on Redwall mode. He grabs a handful of sand from the ground, snarls like a wild animal, and throws it in the direction of whatever the sound is. So he's been on like fight or flight mode for 2 days straight without sleep, food, or water. I'd feel pretty broken after that experience too.
Yeah, he's having a bad time. No doubt of that. I have to really feel sorry for him. So, of course, the next thing, he's just like, he basically, Elwendy's like, comes back, so, you gonna work for me? Yeah, fine.
Yep.
But yeah. Oh, fine, I'll work for you. And he's just like, oh, and so go to not Dolores here, and she'll get you cleaned up and trained. And this is where I learned to hate her, because she's basically teaching me in this way and threatens to beat him for the smallest of infractions.
Yeah, she's like the evil stepmother from Cinderella, kind of.
Pretty much!
Except if the evil stepmother was also herself under somebody even more evil.
Right, exactly.
Evil stepfather.
Yep. I mean, that's kind of why I went to Dolores here, because there is no doubt in that character, in that book series, the author's recent drama aside, she is basically doing what she can to have what power she can and not attract any bad attention her way.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, Ben quickly learns how to basically serve the big boss at his table. And the whole thing is here is you keep your eyes down and you wait for coded signals from basically hand movements to serve particular food or drink when asked. Okay. And at one point, this is kind of was like, wait, what? Ben is literally cleaning up under a table space, and Nazmi is just like, okay, well, you can sleep there while I prep the table above you. It's just like, okay, that's an odd choice, but all right.
It does not sound fun working for this guy.
No benefits at all. Time off, yeah, not good at all.
No.
I'm sure the dental plan is absolutely horrible.
Yeah. I have no doubt.
Just disclaimer, we're not joking about slavery. It's just the only way to make this not dark.
No, I'm saving it. Like I said, I'm saving this for later, but yeah.
It's the only way to distract ourselves from the fact that we're talking about something that is very, very depressing and that we really wish we didn't have to be talking about right now.
Yeah, I agree. They basically, since they forced the troop in, hey, he comes in the troop. We're also introduced to the third of the terrible underling, fourth with Yasmina. Fourth of the terrible underlings, what's his name? Gringo? I want to say Gringo, but I know that's not right.
Is it Genio?
Genio?
Genio.
Yeah.
The pronunciation shows Jeenyooh.
Okay, so, Genio.
Yeah, Genio. Do you want to know how he got his scars? But no, I make the joke, but it's basically, he's... I mean, we're told that at least on one side, he's supposed to look like the Heath Ledger Joker. Oh, dear. Yeah. So, Genio is also... He's not a nice man, but he's like the least bad of these people.
Which is saying something.
Right, exactly.
The only reason he's least bad is he has the least to do to show us how bad he is. So yeah, I just wanted to take it. And then we're told, hey, the troop has arrived. Mr. B, shows up and he's like, hey, I found you a cool troop of traveling people. You want to have them entertain you? Yeah, but they came of their own free will. Right?
Wink. Wink.
Oh, no, they don't need any payment at all, just food and lodging for the night. Oh, and of course, Seraphina's noticed by the bad guys, because of course she is.
Right.
I get it. We can move on from this trope, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, the descriptions are a little bit uncomfortable. I will leave them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with this troop? And we're just told, Dreskar. But Dreskar's far away. Oh, we'll figure it out. Gee, I wonder if they're making a bad plot for the troop that has been forced into performing for them.
No.
I mean, it's too subtle. But yes. So Ben gets the whole thing. He basically gets to attend on someone for dinner. And as a man who has waited tables before, I feel for him. Yeah.
Yes. Please be nice to the service industry workers. Please, please, please.
Indeed. So, and this is where I say Otto is a Kryptonian. Change my mind. We're told our clown pair are not Fred and not George. They roll out a huge strongman's huge barbell, and this is the cliche you've seen in about 100 cartoons, where it's literally a thin iron bar with cast iron balls on either end, and of course the clowns try to humorously lift it, even blowing up fake muscles on either side. No, I don't know how they did that in the 1700s, but whatever. So, and the fake muscles explode, pop like a balloon, and they fall over comically. And then Otto literally not only lifts the bar, they attach balls, but the two clown guys who are falling over the bar comically.
Yeah, so he's lifting the barbell and the two guys that couldn't lift the barbell.
He is a Kryptonian. Change my mind.
Oh, yeah, and he also pulverizes a coconut with a single blow, and he bends a metal spear with his teeth.
Again, Kryptonian, change my mind.
So Instead of Kal-El, it's Auto-El.
I approve. But so yeah, and then Sarah, let's see, we also get, of course, we have a song, and this is from Seraphina, who apparently has a voice of a goddess. So, cool.
Yay.
But yes. And then here comes my favorite part. We have Melindy and her snake Mwaga, and I like Mwaga because she snaps at the guests. That's a good
Yes.
snake. That's a good snake.
I thought I knew in the Redwall series how Jake felt about snakes. I said Jake because Jake rhymes with snake. Anyway, but I can't decide if he is putting the snake in a positive light or not, because in Redwall he did not seem to like them at all. Like he always made them the evil person. But in this, I don't know. I like her.
I too am conflicted about Jake's snakes.
I never read the snakes as necessarily evil, as more force of nature in the Redwall franchise, because they don't discriminate on who they pick on. But yeah, here is Mwaga definitely more just, lawful neutral.
Yeah.
So she's a trained pet, and Lindy dances with her. So, and then she snaps at the slavers. So that's a good snake.
Good snake.
Mm-hmm. And of course, very last of the performance of the night is a black Labrador walks in with a tiny comical hat and a ruffle around his neck, holding a big wickerwork basket. Oh, hey, you found my dog. Thanks, guys.
Which goes right into chapter 7 with the chapter art of Ned, dressed as described, running, presumably, towards Ben.
I found my human. Yay!
Yay! Yes, this is like my dog when I leave for 5 minutes. She's just like the unbounded joy. You're back. Where have you been? It's like, I went to get the mail. Chill.
You abandoned me. I thought I'd never see you again. It's been 30 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know how long that is in dog years? But yes, and then as we kind of indicated earlier, Emily Sudrata definitely does play the whole "who's most loyal to me" game with his underlings, because Yasmina first steps in to guard her boss from Ben and Ned, and Al does not take this well. He's just like, "Do I need a woman to guard me, dude? She's protecting her boss. Come on."
Yeah.
Give him a break. Give her a break, rather. But yes, so she gets sent off. And then it's just like, wait a minute, this is your dog, but he came in with the troop. So we're gonna do the whole literal thing out of the the Annie movie, where two different people are calling to Sandy, and which one is the most who calls the dog successfully gets to keep the dog. Okay, why not? And we have our favorite sassy Labradors back.
Yes.
I love it.
He does not like the name they gave him at all.
He doesn't think that Bundy is a very funny name.
And he's not only that, but he apparently has his entire memory back, and that's never explained when it came back. But okay, hey, I'll
He
take
saw
it.
his human, and he was filled with so much joy that, yeah, I can't explain it.
I don't
It was
think
the angel.
we need to at this point. So, and I even love Al's like, so if this dog's yours, how did you lose him? Hey, you know people who talk me enslaved and sold me to you? Yeah, they threw my dog overboard. Huh. Well, they are jerks. Yeah. But yeah, they're like, so they play this game, and Ned just basically takes the opportunity to play this out. He goes over to thank the troop by basically thank the troop by letting them pet him, and and he also removes the costume and returns it, and then he goes over to Ben. He's like, okay, we're good here. So yes, so the dog really is yours. Okay. Well, he's yours. Good to go.
And then, of course, Ben is enchanted by someone.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And to the troops' credit, they're like, "Oh, this really is your dog. Okay, you can keep him.
Yeah,
We're not gonna we're not gonna protest this."
They're all good people. I like them.
Yes. So yes, they're. And then, of course, yes, you mentioned he's enchanted with Seraphina. Surprise, right?
Yeah.
Total shock and horror. What?
So
Come on, Ben.
Al turns, our big villain boss turns to the troops like, "Where are you guys from?" "Oh, we've here and there and everywhere. I mean, they're a traveling actor troupe. What do you expect them to answer?" "But they originated out of Italy." "Very well." And he straight up asks him, "Hey, you want to go back to Italy?" "Do we?"
Yeah.
Yes. We even get a Mario, "Mamma mia."
Let's go.
But yes, they're basically just like, "Okay, well, we'll send you home. If you give us a couple of more days of entertainment, we'll send you home on our ship. And you can totally trust us." Link.
Yes.
Wait, do you have something in your eye? Yes.
Yes, I do. Thank you for noticing.
It's the glint of gold.
Go ha ha ha.
Yeah. And then it's just like so the big villain boss dismisses the troop and says, Hey, Ben, the guy who's serving me. Yeah, come in. Come, I want to speak to you privately with you and your dog, okay? And he straight up says, "Go on, speak your thoughts, infidel. Don't be afraid. I won't punish you."
Right.
And immediately Ben is like, "Okay, fine. You want the honesty? I think you're gonna summon these people are never gonna see their homeland. You're leading us some kind of a trap. And hey, why is your sword against the side of my neck? No reason." But yes, clearly Ben can see through this quite well. But surprisingly, this is where I start to have some disbelief. Maybe it's just because he's got his dog bat. He's just like, no, I'm totally on the level. I'm going to send him back to Italy. Why do you keep right? But Ben actually starts to believe him for a half second. I'm like, Ben, you've been alive for 80 years. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So, but yay.
I think that was just Jake's trying to say that this is a very convincing person.
Yeah. So
Someone
yes.
who has a silver tongue that would make I'm trying to think of a good Redwall villain with a silver tongue.
Well,
Farago?
Farago, I was kind of thinking of. I was also thinking Emperor Ublaz.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Even though
Ublaz
Almazurta
had the
very much
hypnotic
reminds
eyes.
me...
So.
Almazurta definitely reminds me of Vilu Dasker in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, chapter 8 basically begins, and our favorite boy and dog are sassing each other very quickly.
And the chapter art is Seraphina feeding the horse with a feed bag.
Aww. So yes, they and because and Ben is enjoying this. He's teasing his dog about calling him Bundy, and Ned even just like, if you want to see something really undignified, call me that silly name again. See how dignified you look with that pretty girl watching me tear the seat out of your britches, my boy. I like that. But yes, it's literally male gaze here over Seraphina from Ben. It's like, okay. And yeah.
Not
Ben's
great.
they're enjoying their time to get back together, and Ben is basically being ingratiated into this gang, and yeah. Gang, troop, rather. But here's where the rant I mentioned earlier comes from. Signori Rizzoli, the chieftain of this troop, basically comes and says, "Oh, this Miss Misarata guy is totally on the level. He's not really a slaver, but when the opportunity comes up, he makes sure it's whatever slaves, he comes across his bank, they go to good owners."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yes, I know there's some person listening out there who's gonna say it was the morality of their times. You can't morally question this. Yes, I can. I don't. I this is one of the major points, both in common conversation I've had with various acquaintances or, God help me, relatives over the years. Much less this comment, whether it comes up in literature. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Jakes is doing this here necessarily because there's an obvious fault. Someone's clearly lying, and we can see through that. But this concept that, oh, there were good slaveholders back in those times. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that certain slave owners of the day treated their slaves better than the horror stories we all grew up reading in our history books. But if you are complicit in slave owning in any way, you're still
started the problem.
You're still immorally in the wrong.
Yeah.
Clean cut as that. And I get real tired of people, whether it's, like I said, acquaintances, relatives, or whomever, and they're telling me, like, you can't judge history by the standards of today. No, I can, because that's literally our job, to know what crimes have been committed in the past in the name of morality, theology, or whatever, and make sure they don't happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I mean, today, human trafficking still a thing.
Yep. Moral arc of the universe is long, but it's supposed to bend towards justice, and that means calling out history where we have to.
Mm-hmm. And owning up to our own history. Because unfortunately, there are countries in the world today that feel that admitting that in the past they did something that was terrible is somehow going to make them look weak or somehow not as quote unquote strong. And it's like, no, it takes more strength to admit when you're wrong than it does to, say, no, everything I've done is right.
Yeah. I mean, for example of this done very right, modern Germany does not shy away from their Nazi past. If anything, this is a people are still seeking redemption for what their predecessors did. But you better believe that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to say, well, the Nazis weren't so bad. Oh, yes, they were. So I say all that to say, like, well, this is just part of the book that slavery is addressed. That doesn't mean I'm not unwilling to call it out.
It was, however, I will say this, appropriate for the time. It doesn't, as I said before, doesn't make it right, but it does make sense in context historically.
Correct. And like I said, I actually complimented Brian not a couple of chapters ago for not using theology of any stripe to justify this. If anything, the only justification in a biggest air quotes I can do is straight up greed and gold.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll go back to the story. Rizzoli's just like, oh yeah, this Ali Sarata guy, he's totally on the level. He's not really a slave master, but when the opportunity comes, he makes sure his people get to a good home. Just ask the 3 people that we don't come ever hear about again.
Yeah.
No, we don't. I think we're told that they're headed for Tripoli, which is basically a major slave city, and okay.
Yep.
So wait. From book 1 of Angel's Command, wasn't the slaver ship the Flame of Tripoli?
Possibly.
I do not remember.
I'd have to look it up. Give me a second, I can call up the Google Doc. Checking. Petite Marie, Diable Del Mar, La Petite Marie, Devon Bell, the Dutchman, and
Yeah.
a random fishing vessel.
But they came across a slaver ship
Huh.
at one point.
Did I not write it down? Huh. Well, point is, we're going back. Let's get back to this.
I'll look it up.
distracted.
Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. Chapter 9 basically shows up. Not only was, not only is Rizzoli being led for a fool. Oh yeah, Misurata's a totally evil man who's a slaver with no moral compunction about doing this. Not only that, he clearly wants to be rid of Ben and Ned, but he's going to make the Rizzoli troop pay him for the privilege of taking them off his hands.
Yep.
Okay, here it is. Yes. The Flame of Tripoli was a Barbary Corsair slave ship captained by El Kirkamon. The flag was a red scimitar on a gold background. While in European waters, it was pursued by the Greek Navy vessel, the Achilles. El Kirkamon maintained a friendly relationship with Raphael Theron. And that's literally the whole article for the Flame of Tripoli on the Redwall Wiki.
All right.
And
Good
we also get a confirmation here that after Rizzoli pays for Ben and Ned, and goes back to his troop, we have Al Misurata and that guy.
Him.
They basically, much as Mr. B there, Mr. G and Mr. B. Yeah, that's how we're doing now. They basically straight up said, hey, we're totally going to betray these guys, not send them to Italy and sell them into slavery with a Mr. Drescar. Count Drescar.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, point proven. The big villain is a big villain for a reason.
And they know that because Ned is in the room, right?
Yep. Basically, Ben's like, hey, can you take my dog to guard you, just to be on the safe side? And Rizzoli's just like, okay, sure, whatever.
And I love it how, like, Al Misurata's just petting him, and Ned's like, what if I bit you right now, though? Because you're being bad. But I won't, because then that would give me away. But I'll think about it.
The chapter art is a deflated coin pouch with several coins laying near the mouth of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ned's a very nice spy, and Bamba briefly steps on one of his paws, and Mr. B is just like, I'm gonna stab you because I don't like you, and she's like, Bamba, don't be cruel to poor dumb animals. I was honestly surprised there wasn't like a just like you, but
that's what he's thinking.
Yeah. But yes, basically now it's confirmed. Hey, Ben and Ned are now part of the troop. Yay! Oh, and we're totally gonna be sold all into slavery. This is a trap.
Yep, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yep. But Ben and Ned are like, hey, should we tell everybody? Well, I don't know. We tell them now, they're gonna panic, and we might just get captured and sold into slavery anyway. But we can't just, not tell them either. So they don't for the moment.
Yeah, which I was not sure how to feel about that. I kind of get the reasoning, but at the same time, like, most of them are adults. Mm-hmm. Like, they should know what they're up against, maybe.
Yep. And we get Serafina doing another song, and everyone says her voice is so lovely, and isn't she pretty? Yeah, yes, I get it.
But I'm not sure you do, because we're going to say it about 20 more times.
Just to be on the safe side, in case you missed it the first 19 times, here's a 20th time. Serafina's really pretty.
And we also get Ned being like the best dog when Ned getting annoyed. He's just like, hey, buddy. Yeah, just stop trying to fall in love with this girl. Come on, man. Pay attention.
It's like Ned gives a very big dose of reality. Like, she's gonna watch as she grows older and you stay the same age. And Ben's like, yeah, but didn't you read the book and hear how the 20 times that were described that she was so pretty? Like, I can't help it.
Yeah, buddy, but what happens when the angel sends us somewhere else?
I'll think about that when I get to it.
More or less.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, Ben is not thinking clearly.
Nope.
And given that, what age is he trapped in again? Like mid-teens?
14, 15, somewhere around there.
Oh, good lord. So yeah, he's probably done with puberty, but it's still a lot of, hormones are raging. Oof.
Yep.
Eternally hormonal
Oh
teenager.
boy.
Oh god.
Wow.
No. No, I think I appreciate being an adult. I don't think I would want to do that again.
Yeah. No. Nope.
No.
So, and yep, and so basically says, okay, so yeah, we're gonna, and so we have to get more confirmation. Yes, we're gonna totally sell him into slavery and get some gold, right? Oh, and Mr. B's stupid because they insult him again.
Yes. Because he's
Which I don't
very
mind.
easy to insult.
Right. I do not mind.
And yes, they have they're figuring out their acting troupe thing is gonna be okay. I'm gonna be blindfolded, and my dog, who can't telepathically speak with me, is gonna take objects from everybody, and I'm gonna say what they are while being blindfolded. And then my completely normal dog, who isn't sentient and fully smart, is gonna return them to the right owners. So yeah, and I'm sitting here like, why haven't you done this before, just to earn a little traveling money?
Maybe it never crossed their minds.
Apparently not.
Or maybe they thought about it and decided against it because it would draw too much attention to them, and that's the last thing they want.
That's fair. It's totally fair. But yeah, they're like, cool. All right, well, you got yourself a good good act. And at the very end, near the end, Buttfo the clown's, he basically looks to Ned and he's like, "Hey, how did you do those tricks? Confess." And Ned, to his credit, just barks in his face.
Yep.
And we're basically said, "What did he say?" Ned told you to mind your own business. And Ben himself's like, "Did you really say that?" And Ned's like, "Yeah, but we'll have to watch that Buffalo. I didn't know he could translate dog language."
I really like when Ben's being blindfolded. Momo says, "How many fingers am I holding up, oh mysterious Benno?" 15, my good fellow. And I noticed your hands never once left your wrists when you did it.
Yeah, see, he stole my line. When I was in like kindergarten, well, maybe all through elementary school, kids decided to quote unquote test me because apparently my eyes don't look blind enough. So some people have a hard time believing that I'm actually blind. So like, how many fingers am I holding up? And I just say like 17. Just to be like, if you ask me a silly question, I will give you a silly answer.
Good for you.
I also like the fact that Ben is basically saying, even though he's lying through his teeth, under normal circumstances, oh, it's an old trick, really, and quite simple. But if I were to tell you how I did it, the mystery would be gone. The magic becomes just a trick once the secret has been told to everybody. I've been getting back as I've been collecting playing cards again, getting back into doing like card tricks and stuff. And that really holds true. You lose some of that mysterious edge of just, how did he do that? As soon as you know the trick, it's just like, oh, I get it. And then it's not fun anymore. As I've learned more little bits and pieces, watching other people perform videos on YouTube and such like, it's like, when you can see how the trick is done, when you can understand, oh, this is what's being done, I just can't see it. It no longer becomes, wow, I'm being fooled. No, it's your eyes are tracking every little micro movement and you understand what's going on. So it's like you're studying and it's boring. So it's much more fun to be fooled. So what I'm saying, kids, is if you want to go into performing illusions and card tricks and whatnot, just know that you're ruining the experience of yourself ever being able to enjoy that ever again. So take that into consideration.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the same is true that when you get that first job and you want to work for a restaurant you really like, you're going to find out how they cook some of their food.
Yep.
And that might ruin it for you.
Or like if you go to film school, then you won't be able to. I have heard this. I don't have firsthand experience, but if you go to film school, you will not be able to watch any movies the same way again. It's like, ooh, they did a bad editing job there. Ooh, I don't think that sound was mastered correctly.
Yeah, that dolly zoom was totally off. I would have done it an extra 2.5 degrees to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, chapter 10, the chapter art is Ben is wearing a turban, a blindfold, and some kind of really fancy schmancy robe. Obviously in the middle of his mysterious Ben-O act.
Mm-hmm. And we begin with the clowns do a juggling routine. Lindy does another snake dance. And unfortunately, Maga does not snap at the slavers this time.
Aw.
And then Otto is clearly still a Kryptonian because, quote, everybody guesses he bent a dagger by placing the top of the hilt against his biceps and the blade tip in his forearm. Bending the arm slowly, he turned the dagger into a U shape, leaving only a deep dent where its tip has rested. Now, while that could very well just be a stage prop, if it's not, he's a Kryptonian.
Yeah. Oh, and he also balanced a giant cartwheel on his chin while expanding his chest and snapping a metal chain which had been tied around him. That is explicitly like a Superman move from like the Golden Age of comics.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then we get, of course, Ben-O and Ned-O, the troop. And because our respected Mr. B and Mr. G can't leave well enough alone, they try to sabotage the act. Thankfully, Ben and Ned see right through it and publicly embarrass them.
Woohoo!
Al Miserata is basically like,
dude,
you remember when Jasmina's tried to like step in and save me, and I was like, I can't abide fools. You're doing that. Stop that.
So maybe don't.
Yeah.
Okay, suddenly now I have in my head Otto with a mohawk saying, I pity the fool.
Oh my god.
Otto is just German Mr. T.
Und pity the fool. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry for any German listeners about my terrible accent. So
I could try, but I would fail miserably.
We do terrible accents on this show. It's our thing.
Yes, I know.
Along with terrible puns and useless trivia.
Yes.
Speaking of puns, you've been slacking here, Matthias. Come on, man.
I mean, we're dealing with some very serious topics here, so I'm trying not to.
You have a good point. Anyway, let's move along. But yes, and they basically continue. Of course, Serafina does another song, and yes, Ben's eyes are still riveted on the girl.
Yes.
Oh, I like this girl. Yeah, I get it. Oh, and Bamba is, yeah. Like I mentioned, he's embarrassed. But, oh yeah, Mr. B is, still doesn't get the idea that maybe I shouldn't mess with these people.
Yeah.
Because Ned, gets, Mr. Bamba at one point said, basically it's just like, I haven't forgotten you, you little bizarre rat. Before you're much older, I'm going to teach you some painful lessons. And that's enough for Ned to do what he threatened to do to his friend earlier in jest.
Yep.
And he bites some probably terribly tasting gluteus maximus.
This, children, is how you do the butt bite. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yep.
Chomp.
Yep.
And Ben jumps. He's not an idle here. He jumps in and holds holds Mr. B's knife arm, and in walks Otto, who basically rips the whole group apart.
Yep.
Like, no, children, what have we said about this?
He's a good
It's
man
not-
to have on your side.
Yeah, it's not nice to pick on people that are weaker than you.
He basically also turns to Mr. B and straight up calls him, listen carefully, Doomcoff. And he basically says, you're going to keep away my friends, or I will kill you. Understand? And he's lifting Mamba by his shirt off the ground.
Woo!
Okay, I won't do it.
He doesn't learn though. He's
No.
incredibly unintelligent.
He has earned the term Dubkov. He
Yes.
is not smart.
Yeah, he makes me miss Jungo. At least Jungo is lovably not smart.
I mean,
Yeah.
even our three car thieves from the first book were smarter than this.
Oh yeah, the group of thugs. I want them back. I like them better. At least they weren't gross.
Yeah. Gripper, Chunk, Chaz, and I thought there was a
Flash.
fourth. Flash.
Flash?
Yeah, the four of them. Colonel Hyde must be Simmons, I presume.
I miss anything in so Ned's our best dog for ripping the seat out of someone's pants comically, and defending his friend. Even though he does comment, I need to wash my mouth out now. But yeah,
Anyway.
chapter 11. How does chapter 11 starting artwork?
It's a ship. I'm presuming Al Mizurata's ship, and it's been wreathed in fog, so it has this very mysterious, spooky feel to it.
Yep. But yes, the troop is being hoisted onto the ship, the Siege-Jinn. So, and if you're confused about that title, a Djinn in Islamic theology is a genie. Like literally, the word when it's translated, it was roughly translated in English, is where we get the name genie from.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the Sea Genie.
Yep. So yes. Oh, and straight up Ben admits, yeah, Mr. B's kind of become my enemy. So yeah, about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sure he's not going to try another time at you. Come on, what's the odds?
Of course not.
And he literally turns and hires basically the reincarnation of that random assassin all the way back in Outcast of Redwall. This is that weird camo guy with the kisser knife.
Yes.
Prove me wrong.
I mean, he is kind of a weasel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all I can now hear is just the kisser.
Yep.
Dude was strange.
Indeed. Did we skip the part where Mr. B was flirting with Seraphina, or does that come up later? I don't remember.
Did I miss that?
Honestly, anything that he does, I start to check out because he's just that boring and unimportant.
Yeah, I just had a visceral reaction to that, just because.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't even usually I'd be like, why doesn't she speak up or whatever? But that is, if a man is giving you attention like that, I'm trying to be really careful with what I say because, obviously family friendly, but if a man is giving you attention like that, sometimes you just freeze and you can't do or say anything. And I think that was another time when Otto was like, hey, what's going on, guys?
Yeah.
So that's why Mr. B is my least favorite, because as a woman, I totally get that. Like, he's gross. He is absolutely gross, and at least Al Mizurata didn't do anything like that.
I mean, I've been on the other side of that conversation where you're the external person watching someone really badly try to flirt with someone, and they're not taking the hint that she's just not into you, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so yeah.
Yep, and kids, do what Otto did. Be an ally. Step in and be like, hey, excuse me. Are you not getting the hint? Because I would totally help you get the hint.
Yes, I will introduce you to my fists, and they will teach you the lesson that you obviously do not have enough ears, eyes, or brains to be able to learn yourself.
You don't even need to threaten violence. If you don't know the person, but you can clearly see what's going on, you walk up and you pretend to know the person and engage them in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You basically take away the isolation of this person who does not want to be there.
Yeah.
But moving on, we also have, like I said, Yasmina, the one thing that makes her less of a jerk than she could have been.
Yep.
She basically straight up says to Ben and Ned, "Oh yeah, so Bomba's gonna try to kill you. So okay, I've done my due diligence. You've been warned."
Yeah, she's like, just didn't she say something about like, I mean, watch out, like,
Yeah.
watch out for yourself?
Yep.
She also says, I feel that the fates have marked you for better things than death at the hands of a thick-brained idiot.
Yes.
Well,
Ben.
I mean, you don't need to compliment him quite that way. I mean, being a thick-brained idiot is a whole lot better than being a thin-brained idiot.
She even says, "Go with God, young infidel, and may his shadow protect you." But your dog still sucks. I don't like dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, you had a good moment and you ruined it.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Indeed. So he points out that, Ben points out, it was kind of good of us to warn me. She had no obligation to. So, like I said, the smallest element that makes her not a terrible person. Or the least terrible of this group. Of the villain group. So, but yes. Ben decides to break silence and says, "Hey, Mr. Rizzoli, I know you're my boss now, and I don't want to ruin your good working relationship with the guy who's going to take you home to Italy, but he's not taking us home to Italy."
Yes, I'm glad he told someone, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Rizzoli, to his credit, does not just dismiss this out of hand.
No.
Just, I don't know, where you came from, who sent you to us, and I'm not sure what this all means, but I will keep, I do see the wisdom of ages in your eyes. I'll keep my guard up at least.
Yeah, because it could have so easily been like, oh, nonsense. He's a very good man, and you are a young, like, upstart or whatever. So I'm glad it didn't go that way, because that would have been very frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah, the whole wet behind the ears, you know nothing. It's like, no. You've been around this guy more than I have. You know more than I do. I'm willing to trust your judgment on this one.
Yeah. So, but they're basically like, yeah, what are we gonna, so Ben and I are like, hey, what plan do we have to, not get taken as slaves and help these people out?
We're going to wing it. It'll be great.
Pretty much. But Ben does finally like, well, we have opportunities here. Either before the ship reaches fall the way home in Italy, it's going to dock at Malta or Sicily. That may be our only chance. So yes, and then we have another song.
Woo!
But thankfully, it's not Serafina singing it, it's the Clown Brothers. Yay.
Yep.
So. And they're about to board the ship, and yay. Oh, hi, Vanderdecken.
Yay.
Like, hey, you guys will be back at the sea. Mwahahaha. I'm coming for you. Seriously, buddy, get a hobby.
Yeah, this was totally not unexpected.
There it is.
I mean, was there ever a ghost of a chance that I wouldn't?
No, you'd be a specter of your regular self if you didn't.
Yes.
Bella
you see through me way too easily.
Bella just cruised by on a motorcycle. Hi, Bella. Anyway.
No, we don't rely on our humor on running gags. Nonsense.
Spoilers.
I do want to say something odd about the mass market paperback I got. It's tilted. Like the actual the type is at a very slight diagonal for the entire book.
So is that disorienting to you?
You get used to it pretty quick.
Okay.
Question: when you say it's slanted, do you mean it's offset or is it italicized?
Offset.
Offset.
Like
Yeah, that
the
would be
plane
a
of the
little.
text is a plane of the text is not parallel with the actual paper of the book.
Wow.
Pages.
Yeah, that's almost sounds like a printing error.
Mm-hmm. But this is where it started to become very apparent. It's not in the whole book. Like when I first started, it was straight, and by this chapter, it's definitely tilted. So
It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but a book. Actually, we have a book like that at work in our collection. It's a book on the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the book itself is a parallelogram. So when you open it up, it forms like this wing shape. It looks really weird.
Interesting.
all right, moving back to the story here. Like I said, Mr. B decides to hire the reincarnated camo assassin dude. Let's see how well that goes for him. The guy's name is Abrit, but do you expect him to actually work out here? And he's just basically he negotiates a price. It's like for 3 gold pieces, I will kill them for you. And it's like, dude, you could try this yourself, but okay, you're hiring a professional. I appreciate that. Yeah. I also have Mr. B insults the man he literally just hired.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good business relationship there.
Yeah, calling somebody spawn of sun-dried camel spit. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Anyway,
then.
chapter art for 12 is Abrit with the dagger behind his head ready to throw. And this look of like scorn or disgust on his face.
Wow. I'm totally going to win here, guys. So, what I didn't mention, sorry, last chapter, Vanderdecken. He briefly appears to both our main duo and basically causes them to faint. Just seasickness, guys, but we haven't even cast off yet. I get really seasick. All right, chapter 12. But yes, they're finally they're at sea and going forward, and hey, yeah,
They're ready for adventure on the big blue wet thing. I could not resist.
No, I approve of that one. So yeah, we haven't got the two of them are discussing. Yeah, great, Vanderdecken's back. So we haven't got any message of warning from the Angel for a while now. Yeah, no, we haven't. Oh well. So and Ned currently sees through his buddy's first. What you mean is like you like being with Serafina. You don't want to have to get sent away so quickly, huh?
Shut up, Ned.
To be fair, Ben just teased it back. Well, what about you? And I love the dog's answer. Oh, I suppose some century or other off some across a pretty young golden Labrador, a soft doe-eyed thing with a coat like honey. Right, that's enough of talk of that. It's like, aw, so Ned does think about this.
Yep.
But yes. Oh, yes, and our evil assassin's mwahaha. He's totally planning to do this. Oh, and we get Otto, who apparently his mustache wax smells like to high heaven.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, it's just a little comic interlude between Otto and the two clown brothers.
Mm-hmm. It's a pomade made from a tar of violets and the wax of honeybees.
It is very special and most expensive.
Oh
Yes.
boy.
That just sounds like okay, the movie itself is not Diven friendly, but this sounds like it's that Sex Panther cologne out of Anchorman. Okay. But yes, then we get our our total sequence of stealth kill, like it's Splinter Cell. And Abrett's just like, I'm totally going to do this, guys. I'm going to totally get the boy and his dog. I'm going to throw the knife at the boy and then stab the dog with my regular knife. And yeah, this will totally... What is that thing flying in my face?
Ah! I'm dead.
One of our two clown brothers literally comes up, realizes that this assassin's about to kill his friend, and tosses a piece of the belaying pin at our assassin and literally whistles while he does to draw the guy's attention, and it hits him straight between the eyes and straight up kills him. And it's even implied that I doubt that the belaying pin did this, but when he fell, his neck broke because the head is at a weird angle.
Yeah.
Good Lord! I think Momo's in the wrong profession here.
And he is traumatized by this, which I did like.
Yes. He killed a man. I didn't want to. I just wanted to stop him from throwing the knife at you. And to be fair, Ben's just like, you saved my life. You didn't do anything wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And no, he genuinely didn't mean to kill him. He was just trying to stop him. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, split-second decision. It worked.
Yeah.
So
what do we do with him?
So I have a quick question. If so this was obviously planned to kill Ned and Ben, like I was saying earlier. Is the angel / God always going to interfere with this so he does not get killed? Or if he did get stabbed that would kill a regular person, would it just injure him? Since he's immortal and all.
I'm thinking the latter, frankly.
Okay.
But we've never really been, at least in what material we've read so far, we've never really seen where that could happen. Like, what literally would happen to R2 if they were trapped in the Mediterranean, past 3 or 4 days, where any human being would die of thirst.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And for what it's worth, the series ends as a trilogy, but we don't know if Brian was intending to write any more. We could have seen a situation like that if there was ever a book 4.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, hey guys, so what do we do with this assassin's body? Boot right over the edge.
Throw it overboard.
Hey, so, and no one questions, like, hey, where is he in the next morning? Oh, I'm sure he's fine. He'll turn up.
Yeah, Mr. B is just like, my plan didn't work somehow. I'm just going to be very, very not subtly looking around and not
chapter
suspiciously.
12. Chapter 12 literally ends with the two having a conversation. It's like, I'd like to know who the assassin was. And Ned's like, I'll bet my tail begins with a name with a B.
Yeah.
Barry from our last adventure? Why would the cook care about us?
Yes. I do want to point out there's a very humorous, it's like, quiet, somebody's coming. So Momo grabs some more of the belaying pins and pretends to be showing Ben that he can juggle with them just like the pins that he normally juggles.
Yeah, that was smart. He's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what's chapter 13's art?
It's a bag of coins sticking out of like a ship captain's hat.
I wonder if that'll be a plot point.
I wonder.
Yeah, it is. So yes, our first thing is what Katie mentioned, where Mr. B and Mr. G kind of have a quick conversation. Hey, have you seen that one guy, Albert? He owes me money. No, I haven't. Why would you lend anybody money?
How much was it? It was 3 gold pieces, I think. 3 gold pieces? You think? Ha! When was the last time you owned 3 gold pieces? In fact, when did you ever loan anything to anyone, son of a motherless thief? Ooh, Gino doesn't like Mr. B at all.
Apparently not. And then there's Ben, else just a couple of benches away in the mess hall, laughing over. Oh my God, they don't know.
Yeah.
And Gino turns to Ben and's like, "Get out of my sight, infidel brother of a black dog." Hey!
I mean, is it that much of an insult if it's true? Because
Well,
at
not
this
in this
point,
case.
Ned is pretty much his brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yes. Oh yeah, there's another ship coming. And Ben and Ned get the idea of, hey, if this is a regular navy, they won't know. You know, if we report them for being slavers, they'll rescue us, right?
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 Yeah, for some reason, this was like, besides other stuff that happens later in the book, this is something that I did remember vividly. I don't know why, but it just always makes me cringe. Like, oh man, this is not gonna work.
Yep, because then the book would be over.
Right.
I mean, I also love Ned at this point. Let me go see the ship. Dog's eyes are best. Let me take a look. And I can't help but, where's Ben like, you're colorblind.
Yeah.
But yes. And so the Santa Veronica Del Mar pulls up side, basically just to do a quick, hey, are you guys cool? And of course, Al Miserata I'm going to spoil this here. Though Ben and Ned try to reach the captain of the other ship, they try to block off, and Al Miserata bribes the other captain to look the other way.
Yep.
Gosh, we saw that coming. Hey, what was the chapter art again? Oh, right. It's not that big of a spoiler in the chapter art, but it kind of just does tell you what's about to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's as dramatic as like in book one, where like I guess it was a picture of the deed at the beginning of the chapter where they hadn't found it yet.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the captain takes off. It's like, well, crap. Oh man, how can this possibly get worse? Oh, so Mr. G is gonna have you get killed
Yeah.
and thrown overboard at the next port, and they'll just say you escaped.
Oh, I
Oh,
got two people trying to kill him.
oh, and at some point here, Ben, when he's trying to get out to the other captain, he also kind of just dismisses Serafina rudely.
Yes.
And she's kind of irritated at him about it, and goes back to the group, and the group kind of all call him out on it. Like, what I don't like here, and it's just the cliche of, well, I mean, you're young, you don't know how to, how women, how women's minds think is about things. Like, oh my God, really?
Thank you. I didn't like
This
that
cliche.
either.
It's like, gee, guy, and for any youngin who's in that 13 to 14 age, if you want to know how you talk to women, you treat them like they're people.
Right.
The rest falls into place.
Yep. I wasn't a fan of that either. And like the little song he sings, like, oh, she'll say no when she really means yes, or whatever the song was. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
This old chestnut.
Really? So.
Yeah. It's even if you don't have a lot of experience talking with people, the golden rule still applies. Treat others how you want to be treated. So, polite, respectable, earnestness goes a long way in getting somebody to be easy to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But they make up, and it's fine.
Yeah, they make up.
I kind of did like Ned's word vomit apology. He's just like, I'm so sorry. When I did this, I was really thinking this, and I didn't mean to upset you, and I really didn't upset you, and I'm really, really sorry. I'm just gonna keep talking really, really fast and hope that you'll understand me. And she's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny.
We're friends now, okay? She's like, yeah, dude, I get it. Don't. Yeah, they're gonna have us killed. Do you have any bright ideas? Oh, we could always jump overboard when we're close to land. So we're gonna do what they're already saying we did to the captain. Yeah, pretty much.
On our own terms.
Yep. But yeah, that's literally they don't actually jump at by the end of the book, but they're basically just like, okay, well, okay, so what their plan is, we're gonna jump when we get close enough to shore, and that's where book 1 ends.
Yep.
So just about everybody has it out for this kid. It's like, oh, good lord.
Yeah.
Compared to most of the other books where he at least gets along with the majority of the locals versus just like one or two bad people.
Yeah, I mean, at least he does have friends, though. Like I really like in all the Jake's novels, there is a strong element of friendship throughout. Like everybody seems to have friends, so
Yeah.
that's nice.
So that, all things considered, I still like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of the whole slavery element, but I am willing to indulge in this because, as Matthias pointed out, we're going to have to deal with this is part of it's a part of history you can't just avoid. You have to address it.
Yeah.
You can't at least say, hey, come on. Where we can at least point it out where it's wrong. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm. As for me, I said I'd talk about it. The time to talk about it is now. As I alluded to earlier, there are elements where it's like it's trying to be modern, talking about things like Germany, but then it's like Cathay, and there are some historically accurate things like the Janissaries did in fact have flintlock rifles. That is 100% a thing. But then some of these elements that's just like trying to or attempting to be like more modern in some sensibilities, and then having it just kind of fall flat in its face. You either have to commit one way or the other. Either it's going to be modern morals in a historically inaccurate setting because that's not how things were, or you commit 100% to, that's how things were back then. But when it's flip-flopping between the two and it can't quite decide what it's going to be, the whole thing just feels like a mishmash. That's not to say that so far book one is bad, but it certainly doesn't do anything to win points in favor of me feeling better about it. I do appreciate some of the moments. It's always good to see the stupid bad guy suffer for being a stupid bad guy. That is very satisfying. But it feels like there's some substance missing that I can't quite put my finger on. Could be the fact that it's been a long time since I've read this one. So we'll see where book 2 and 3 takes us.
Mm-hmm. Katie, any of your thoughts?
I think I've talked at length about the things that I did not like, so I guess I'll concentrate on the stuff that I did enjoy, which there was in this book, which I'm glad about. I liked the troupe a lot. I liked the clown brothers, who are very much like Fred George Weasley, which is not an insult because I love those characters. They're funny, but they're also intelligent, and they're kind of canny and very clever, and I like them. I like that Ben and Ned are reunited. I like sassy Ned. Don't like the bad guys, but I think I'm not supposed to like the bad guys, so that's fine. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's no bad guys that can be arguably have something really redeemable. And as the only one I point out like with Yasmina is because she does, at least at the last minute, they're like, hey, by the way, but that's more just, again, she's kind of like the least bad of the bad guys. And I can't say much about Mr. G because he barely does anything.
He's just a terrible grump who decides, I don't like you. You rub me the wrong way. Therefore, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, pretty much. So, that being said, I think we'll go to the next portion here. So, by the way, before we sign off, I did check our reviews. We don't have any new ones. So, of course, if you want us to, I would thank you for any star reviews you give us on Apple Podcasts. Much if you do write a written review, we'll always rate it out online and thank you for it. So, all right, you can find us at recorderonthewall.com. Our Twitter is at ROTWPOD. Our Our Gmail is rotwpod@gmail.com. I try to be active on the Red Bull forums and Argulalia where I can. Am I missing anything?
Podcast platforms, did you say that
Yes,
already?
thank you.
Okay.
We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.
And pretty much every service that scrapes podcast RSS feeds.
And to just put it out there without my consent. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Matthias, you brought us in. You want to bring us out?
Okay. Looking forward to next episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I have been Matthias.
I have been and still am Katie.
And I'm Pete.
And we'll see you next time, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.